right. Well, I'm going to jump right in,
Okay.
and whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I know. I was like, how do we do this? Like,
Yeah,
we'll
what's the
probably
deal?
be like,
I will lead, and you just
okay.
answer the questions. So what I first want to know is how long ago did you start cheer and why you started?
Okay. Do you want to go first, Jordan?
Sure. I started cheerleading so long ago that I don't really remember exactly when. It was like mid-uni. And a mate, I mean, Hannah Capes I went to high school with her.
All right.
And she got me into it. We all did gymnastics at high school, and so there were a bunch of like people we used to train gymnastics with who, we graduated high school, went to uni, and wanted an excuse to hang out in the gym. And so Hannah had been roped into this cheerleading team at the gym we used to train with, and she then roped me into it. And this was like, this was a long time ago. This would have been like 2006 or something, 7, something like that. So back when cheerleading was very small and not really a thing, and it was just a bunch of people like reading rules and seeing what trying to work out what we could do or couldn't do, watching
Totally.
YouTube clips.
So was it Wesley Lyons that was your first team?
Wesley Lyons, yeah.
Yep. And then when did you go to Outlaws?
2010, I think. I think I went to. I'm terrible at dates, so I might be getting all of this wrong. But I think it was it was for 2011 Worlds, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I actually did some research before this.
You're good. I did not. Yeah. Well done, Shelley. Thank you.
What was the reason for going to Outlaws?
To go to Worlds, I think, and to train with a bigger group of people, honestly, and to train with more people doing partner stunt. They were kind of my motivations. They had this like great group of people, guys and girls, but guys to train with their like Ant and Pat Bozo and Chris Chatfield and like all of these kind of, back in those days, having like a big squad with like a decent partner stunt section was like totally unique and not something I'd ever kind of been a part of. So that was,
awesome.
Had Ant come to Outlaws before you, and like you knew him before Outlaws, and then did you come?
Yeah, we knew him. No, we did. We were on, like, Meg and Danelle were on Lions for a time, and then we did our own different thing with them for a little while, for a year or so, and then so we kind of knew Ant. We knew Ant through Lions, and then then Outlaws. How about you, Shelley? When did you start?
I started in 2000 and I think it was, I said I did my research, but I actually didn't look at that date. I was more looking at when we started stunting
Classic.
together.
I asked you the one question you didn't prepare for.
I started at the end of grade 6 cheerleading, like proper. Wow. So it would have been 2005. But before that, I did dance and gymnastics. And then I didn't really enjoy gymnastics. I thought it was like too strict. So my mum was looking into something else that was similar but wasn't as, I was at a Knox Gymnastics, and they were asking me to like take time off school, and it was getting more and more. And it's not really what I wanted to do. So she found a place it was at Waverley Gymnastics, but it was Acro. So I did acrobatics for a year, and then they I think the coach got into cheerleading somehow, and we made like an acrobatics cheerleading routine and competed that. And then that was all good. I enjoyed it, but the way it was run, Mum wasn't too keen on driving me there again. So she had a look in the yellow pages and found Dancer's Edge. And then that's how I ended up at Outlaws. And I was in grade 6, so a very long time ago. And that was when we did like the basketball. I cheered for the Knox Raiders, and then the Bulleen Boomers. And then we did like a little showcase at the end of the year, but it was mostly pom and dancing and then like a prep. Like there wasn't anything too crazy. And then I think not long after I started, Rosemary went over to America and sort of learnt, I think, I could be wrong, but I feel like she learnt some more cool things and came back. And then that was when it sort of started to actually be
all-star.
Like cheerleading. Yeah. And then I moved to Atlas in 2005, and then 2007 was when we first went to Worlds.
Wow. Wow. Crazy. I didn't realize you guys had started going to Worlds so early.
Yeah. Wow. 2007 was my first Worlds.
That's crazy. So you've nearly been doing cheerleading for 20 years. Like you'd be coming up to doing it for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm turning 30 soon. So
yeah.
It's been,
oh, wow.
That's crazy. I wish I'd started. So that's like one of my greatest regrets is that I didn't know about it, but I wish I'd started it when I was younger, because I feel like I personally had trouble catching up as an adult.
Yeah. And I feel like it wasn't around though. We couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an awareness thing. It literally didn't exist.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Like it's so true though. Like I look at all the people kind of coming up now, and they have coaches who've done the skills before. They have, they have like all the folks who are off at college in the US and stuff. Like you need to start early enough. I only got good enough to maybe think about that kind of thing in like my 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder, I think.
But
anyway, sorry.
Oh no, okay. I was just going to say, I remember meeting someone at Worlds. I think I was about 18, and it was at Cheer Athletics or somewhere, and it was another 18-year-old, and she was talking about how it's her last season and she's retiring, and I was like, I've just like started.
Exactly right. I started at like 24.
I beat you both. I started at 28.
Yeah, well done.
And it's so funny because I remember one of my first memories of our first comp. I think it must have been Winterfest, I guess. And those were the days that they used to have the competitions afterwards of who could do as many pirouettes and all of that kind of stuff. And then it was like highest basket. And so we were like, yeah, let's go for highest basket. And then and this was in the days when I was in Redbacks and Outlaws. It may have been you, Shelley, flying.
It was
basket.
Probably was.
It was literally like us and you, and we thought we were so high, and our basket was wrapped this high. And I just remember watching you and being like, yeah, they beat us. Like I was already on the ground and you were still coming down. I was like, I'm not going to enter highest basket ever again.
I know. That was my favorite thing to do. Highest basket was just so much fun.
Yeah.
But
was it you guys that did the Guinness World Record for it?
No, we weren't a part of that. That was like ECA.
Yeah.
That's right.
That would have been fun though.
Yeah. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. I can't imagine what it'd feel like being on top of one of those, but it's seriously fun, just like launching the crap out of them.
Yeah. They're fun.
And so when did you two start partner stunting together?
So I Googled.
You did research.
It was 2011.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I used to partner stunt with Dave, and then he went to Cheer Athletics that year, and then Rosemary put us together.
Nice. I remember I saw you and Dave are the first like real life rewind I ever saw.
I think me and Dave were like the only people, like when we competed,
you were like the only
just
people.
me and Dave.
Yeah.
Because Derek taught us how to do rewinds and that sort of thing. And I look back and I just laugh because the attempts were so awful. But at the time I was like, this is...
I look back on so much stuff like that from those kinds of years, and I'm just like, wow, I thought I was so good, and good Lord.
I thought my very first Redbacks competition, I was so excited. And I look back at that and I'm like, I'm all bent legs and my arms are everywhere. And I remember feeling like being on stage and thinking I was like really strong.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, I'm like waving.
It's amazing, right? And you're like, could I not see that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Which is, I mean, it's a beautiful thing about that journey and that progress, right? If you can, look back on stuff like that and feel like you've moved a long way. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's also, I don't want to, it's also something that everybody goes through, right? Like you got to start off rubbish, and it's going to be a journey of refinement and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think as well though, because cheer was so behind here, like it didn't really, even I went to Worlds in 2007, but I feel like we had no clue. Like my skills were not great. But so even though I'm like ahead, I started cheer earlier, I feel like I actually didn't start proper cheer until like 2009, 2010. Yeah. And I feel like these days, the younger ones, they see all like the talented older ones, so they can fix, they get their skills so much earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like I find that when I'm like coaching, particularly partner stunt, right? It's just like, I'm going to give you a tip, which is going to fix that, which took me literally 12 months to work out. Like I was stuck on this skill for 12 months and I've given it to you in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you think, so this is something that I've actually talked to my gymnastics coach about, in that there people who are self-taught often have a really great understanding of their body and awareness of their body. And that, so when someone else like does give them a tip, or they're just able to self-correct better. Like, do you think that's a thing?
I do, but some way, some not. I feel like I'm very in tune with myself from a lot of the stuff we've self-taught. But then again, I'm so in my head sometimes that like I don't correct things straight away because I overthink it. If that makes sense. I'm not sure. What do you think, Jordan?
I think it can go both ways. I think having spent a stack of time thinking and trying to nut through a skill, then I think that can be a help. But also, there's stuff that you either don't figure out, or you figure out a thing that works and decide that and you just don't know why. And like I think equally really good coaches can explain stuff in a way, like they can explain the why as well as the what, and they can have drills or explanations or prompts that really get you thinking about and understanding, the dynamics, the why, the of the technique. So like I think it's a real mixed bag. I think there's definitely stuff in my and our stunting that is stronger for having just spent so much time on it. But
I want to pick up on something that you just said then, Shelley. I remember years ago when Steph and Eddie first came and started coaching us, and Steph said to me, "You think too much." And I was like, I don't even know what that means. And it genuinely took me about 7 years to figure out that I was thinking too much. Like I thought about it for 7 years, and then it took me like several more years to stop doing it and to get out of my head.
Yeah.
Do you think you're better at like not being so much in your head anymore? And like what got you out of that?
I honestly don't know. I had the worst mental block for years. Jordan is a saint for sticking by me, but I got so scared of doing tucks that I would not even do anything that required me to go backwards, not even a back walkover or anything. And I remember like coaches saying like, if you want to do it, then you'll do it. And I was like, but I do really want to do it. I'd go home overnight and lay there. I'd drive in the car on the way home thinking about it. And I like desperately wanted to do it. But the problem was I wanted to do it so bad that I was so in my head. And then, there were so many different approaches, but I'm pretty sure we just left it for like a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And then it just stopped. And like, now I'm fine with anything. Like I'll try, not that we've been able to stunt, but like my fear was gone. Like here and there, if I'm doing a new skill, I'll be like, oh, a bit scary, all that. But like, I will try it. Whereas I was at a point where I literally wouldn't try it. And I must have been in my head so much but I don't know how I stopped being in my head. Like it just happened one day.
So I've got a theory about this. Tell me what you think.
I have a theory too.
Yeah.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing yours. So I remember I did this psychology thing about actors, and now we're talking about what the reason that actors can be more anxious and fearful. And one of the biggest reasons is because a lot of the time they have a really big imagination, a really thorough imagination. And so when an actor thinks of something that could go wrong, they see it, feel it, touch it so vividly that their body thinks it's real. So it's no longer something that you've imagined. Your body is like, no, you hurt yourself, therefore you can't do this again. And I kind of put that into my gymnastics training. And then when I was scared of something, what I would do is sit there and visualize what could go wrong. And so then I would just get even more scared. And then the minute that I figured out that I was doing that and started stopping myself and going, no, visualize, think about doing it correctly, thinking about land it perfectly, that was when I kicked into, oh, okay, I'll be fine. So I think people who are naturally good at that kind of stuff, they've always got that mindset of being like, this is going to land perfectly. They don't go into that mindset of, oh my God, what can go wrong? Let's just imagine all the things that can go wrong and how many things I can break.
That's really interesting.
I feel like mine was so different though, because I know lots of people that had blocks, but they would still throw the skill and get scared halfway through, or they'd hurt themselves. I literally did not hurt myself at all, ever, doing it. And I would land tucks every time. Like I would never touch down. Mine was like an all or nothing. If I was going to throw it, I'd throw it and I'd land it.
Yeah.
Like I would not touch down, which was so confusing for me because I knew I could do it perfectly. Yeah. And I think that was more of the problem because I'm a perfectionist, that I was like, I either do it or I don't. But what you said there was definitely, I would also, not that I'd ever hurt myself or touch down, but I would think about that and I have no idea why. But it definitely is, something to do with visualizing things going wrong.
That visualization things are really interesting to me because that's like that makes a lot of sense, and I can see that in a lot of people. That is absolutely the opposite of the way my brain works.
Yeah.
Like the way that I build confidence in something is by visualizing all the things that can go wrong.
Yeah, right.
And be like, okay, how is this going to go wrong? Will I be seriously hurt if any of those things happen? Probably not. All right, let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's so interesting.
You know, so like, and it's how I think about like stunts, right? Like with us, right? If we're trying a new dumb skill, what are the ways that it can go wrong? And I will, if I can think of a way it can go wrong where like you are unsafe or I'm unsafe, it's usually you, then I'm scared of it. But if I can think my way through it and be confident that, and I just trust that, like, if I've done that thinking, I don't know. So the visualization. I understand
that too now. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
It's a logical way of working through it, because it's like, because then maybe it's like, if this can go wrong, I can save that. This can go wrong, but I can save that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a potential, maybe there's a scenario where I get kicked that way and there's no one spotting over there and now I'm scared. Which is, but yeah, I think my theory on with you, Shelley, with the like stuff is just putting too much pressure on it.
I know.
Like we'd always like, and that's been our kind of approach with this stuff since more or less day dots. Like, scared of it, let's not do it. Let's move on, go do something else. Who cares? Like, you do not have to do the thing. This is not, like there's a lot of, I see a lot of kind of coaches be like, you must do this, like, I'm going to get the whole squad to stand on the side of the floor and watch you.
Which is what traumatized me.
Exactly right. No, I was there. I was on the side of the floor, being like, I don't think this is helping you.
Yeah.
And like some people that does help, right? Some people pressure is great and it makes them perform. Yeah. But some people know, right? Like the more you ratchet the pressure up, the harder you clamp down and you can't do it.
Yeah.
I've never personally coached a team, but I think that's probably one of the hardest things about coaching, is to know which athletes perform under what coaching techniques. Like which athletes you have to babysit and which athletes you have to go, no, I know that they will do it on their own, and how you navigate the fact that athletes are treated differently. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It is very hard, and I hated that about myself, because I put so much pressure on myself that it was kind of weird. When I got pressure put on me, I'd go the opposite way. Like
Yeah, me too.
Like I would just melt down and be like, nah, can't do it. Like whereas if I was ignored, I would be like, I'm doing this skill for myself. Like if I was ignored and I go over on the tumble track and just stand there for like 10 minutes and throw one tuck, that was like great. Rather than like if I was like in front of the team, everyone standing there watching me and have to do it, I just would not.
Yep. So and like this is interesting now, because then let's talk about the pressure of Worlds, because I mean we all know that standing behind that backdrop before going on the floor for Worlds is probably the highest pressure I've ever been in my life. And I always used to sit there and be like, so it's fine, we're not curing cancer, it's fine, it's just cheerleading to like try and like take away the pressure.
What is the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. So how do you navigate? So that's a different kind of pressure than the pressure of everyone watching you. How do you navigate that pressure?
Do you want me to go, Jordan?
Sure.
I see, that's weird because I thrive off performing. Like if we're in training, there's not many people there, I'll do good. But like if there's people watching, I will like do better. Like, and I don't know whether it's from doing dancing from a young age. I always loved the dance concerts. Any form of competing, I love. Like even beforehand when people get scared, like I get excited. Like, and they talk about that. Like I would talk to my kids when I'd coach them, talk about turning your nerves into excitement, like turn that around so that you're not going to crumble out on the floor. But my whole cheerleading career, I have just been so excited to compete, and I've always most of the time done well on a comp floor. Like I don't crumble under that pressure, but that's weird because I don't like the pressure of like do that skill right now in front of like your team that you're really close to.
Competing, you're doing for you and your friends, right? Like we are here as a team. Like you're not going onto that floor because someone yelled at you and told you that you have to. You've spent the last however many months preparing for this with your group of friends who you are doing a thing with. I think it's a real different kind of pressure. I mean, it's so funny though that like I hate performing. I hate competitions. I hate competing.
Really?
This is not what I'm here for. Like I love training. I love learning. That is what I'm interested. I compete because people won't train with me unless I also compete. That's literally yeah, well, we've gotten to the point, right, that we'll train
that we
whether or
just
not
train
we're competing.
And don't compete.
Yeah, but that's my dream, right? And like I like aspects of competing, but like it is 100% not what drives me.
Yeah. No, I definitely love training and getting the skills as well, but competing I just find so much fun. Except for, I will say, partner stunting, I do get more nervous than if it's with a team, because I don't know, the team, like if something does go wrong, like there's so many other things for people to look at, and whereas like when it's just us for partner stunt, it's like it's us.
And do you think there's also that comes from like when you're with a team, there's just you're confident in your skills and your ability, so that's what gives you like
maybe, because I guess our skills in our routines probably aren't as high as like I feel like partner stunting is like the highest level of stunting that we've done together, so it's a bit harder. And go Jordan.
I think a lot of nerves of competing is just like not being prepared enough. Like the it's funny, like you mentioned Worlds, that is the routines I've done at Worlds are I have been the least nervous for. Because I've walked into each time I've taken that floor, I've just been like, there is literally no chance that I will mess this up. Like I am so confident. I can't remember the last time any of these skills even wobbled. Like it's fine. Whereas like a lot of you see this a lot in kind of partner stunt routines, and we're guilty of it sometimes. People throw a routine and it's like 50-50 whether they're going to hit it. And it's like that's of course that's scary. You're walking out in front of a bunch of people to show them what you prepared, and there's a good chance you'll mess it up. I mean, you're doing something wrong, I think, if that's the case. Like again, you should be taking the floor when you should not be able to remember the last time you stuffed this up.
That's I was going to say 2016 nationals that you and me competed at. And we were like up against like some good partner stunt couples like Derek and Kenny and that. And I remember I wasn't nervous that year about us because we had done that routine
so many times.
And I was just nervous about like the amazing partner stunts that we were up against. But that year we hit our routine great. And that was because we had done it so many times.
It's just muscle memory, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And often with partner stunt, a lot of people train partner stunt, but they don't train routine. Like we wouldn't train the routine. So like that year we like changed and trained our routine in like sections, did it over and over again, like you would with a team routine. Yeah. But like up until then we were sort of like just training skills, and it would get to like a week or two before comp and we try and put them all together.
Yeah.
So
yes, oh my God, my first competition, we didn't do a full out until like the training. I don't know, actually, I don't think we ever did a full out. I think we do a full out in the warm up before going on. I mean, we were doing very, very basic skills back then.
Even so, like, it's just like, if you do hit it, it's luck, right? Like you don't,
totally. Definitely.
Right, I'm going to take the conversation in a sort of a different direction. So you guys have been, you're some of the first cheerleaders ever in Australia. What do you think the public perception of cheerleading is now compared to what it was back then? Like, do you think people are much more aware? Do you think people are there's still the stigma? Like, I still have people, I wear my national champs jacket and people are like, oh, you a cheerleader, give me an A. And you're like, I'm going to punch you.
Yeah. It's funny. It's probably, I imagine I get different reactions when I say I'm a cheerleader than either of you do.
Yes.
Being a like not particularly small dude. It's changed massively, right? Like people, you tell someone in 2010 that you do cheerleading, blank stares, or like, oh, is that like Bring It On? And these days, pretty reliably, someone, like, I tell people at work or like, people I meet, and pretty reliably someone knows someone who does cheerleading or is oh, my niece does that or whatever. It's much huge change in awareness and stuff from my perspective. But
and do you think it's positive awareness as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think there's I mean that like Netflix documentary
that
helped
helps
bloody
so much.
Everybody who it's God, I had so many conversations with people at work about that thing. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely more people know about it. I always have people saying, oh, my friends, sisters, kids do that, or and it's definitely positive. The cheer documentary definitely helped people see how hard it is, because even like I feel like friends, not all my cheer friends, but like, I don't know, say like friends of friends, they know I do cheerleading, they know I've done it for years, but I don't think they actually realized like how hard I've trained over the years and how much, like, I don't know, effort and sweat is put into it, and how physical it is. Like, I think they see pictures of it, but they don't really realize that we've spent hours. Like, I used to be in the gym almost every day of the week, like 3 days for team training, but then on the other days we'd be in partner stunting and doing other things. So like, I don't think they realized how hard it actually is to get the skills and that. So that Netflix definitely helped for people to see how hard it is, which I think is good.
I keep videos of us handy on my phone as well, because I tell people and explain, they're like, oh yeah, cool. Then you show them something, even something relatively basic, they're like, people don't like, they don't link the like, holy moly, you're holding someone on your hand.
I showed my kids the video of our back tuck like recatch, and they were all like, wow, like it blew their minds that I could do that. They were like, is that you? And I was like, yep.
I was meant to say this before, but you've just reminded me. I think there's such a different thing about being able to perform an acrobatic skill in the relaxation of training when no one else is watching, compared to being able to do it in front of an audience. I almost think they're two different skills. Like, there's so many people that are really great stunters when they're just in the gym, and then they get on the floor and like everything falls apart.
I think that is particularly so with like partner or group, right?
Yeah.
Because I know how far I need to throw you for the skill to work. You know how much you need to, we have a sense of it in the gym, and then put us on a stage with adrenaline and people watching and lights in your face, and I'm going to throw you a little harder. And everything's going to be miles off. I think that's it's a real, you can't, there's no substitute for comp experience. If you want to perform in a competition or in a performance, you need to do it, and you need to accept that the first couple times you do it, you're going to be rubbish.
Yeah. I was going to say that's like a skill in itself, sort of. And I think that's what helped both of us, maybe. Like, I don't know. I don't think that either of us really ever overdo it, like in a comp setting. Like, we both kind of keep our cool a little bit, which is, I guess, something you learn over time.
Which is, I think partly it's like our personalities to a certain extent, but it's also, it's also we've done it for years, like I was rubbish the first 10 times I competed.
Yeah.
So I know Rosemary will kill me for bringing up injury, but I still feel like it's such a huge part of our sport, and and some people have seen it as a really negative thing to talk about injury, but we're doing acrobatic stuff, and I guess I wanted to say, like, do you have any thoughts on how to best to avoid injury? And also, and I know, Shelley, you did your knee and that was pretty traumatic for you, like what was your process of coming back? Also, I want to say that I remember going to the partner acrobatic convention, and people had so many scars, and I remember thinking, when you do this sport, in a way, injury is a rite of passage.
Yeah. No. What was the question?
What do you think is the best way to avoid injury? And when you have been injured quite badly, do you have any tips for coming back from injury?
I think, for avoiding injury is just working up to your skills, like not trying to throw crazy skills that you're not really ready for. But then also, I don't know, Jordan, like keeping fit, we always warm up. Actually, I saw a great thing yesterday. I think he's from Germany. I could be wrong. Konstantin. Mm-hmm. He shared something about partner stunt and about how you should train and always do a warm up, like picking a couple of skills to do every time. And that is something that me and Jordan have always done in partner stunt. And we've never really had an injury partner stunting at all. But I suppose some injuries are just unavoidable, like mine was. That was just a weird accident. And then coming back from injury, did you say?
Yeah.
I was really lucky. Like, I wasn't lucky that it was at Worlds, but
do you want to, for anyone who's watching that doesn't know, do you want to do a quick recap of what happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah. So in 2017 Worlds, on day 2, we'd done most of our routine, luckily, and we got to our jump section and bit out of time, maybe timing issues. Actually, the other thing is we changed our jumps formation that morning. So originally the day before it was all girls in the front row, and because we weren't scoring, Dave made a change and we changed it on the grass outside, and then we did it on the warm-up floor and then on the comp floor. So I was used to having girls next to me, and I know in a toe touch you're meant to like keep your legs forward to avoid clipping. I'm quite flexible in my splits. I can get them like I can get them behind my hips, so I struggle with trying to keep my toe touches in front. And I guess it was just a combination of things, but we clipped feet and I just landed completely on this leg and it dislocated and I tore my ACL and damaged my MCL. And meniscus. But yes, not lucky that it happened at Worlds, but some ways I look at it that I was very lucky because I was just surrounded by such a positive team and I was in such a positive environment that I was not sad. Like, I mean, I cried obviously and was really upset when it happened. But then after the comp was over, I just had the best time. Like, I was supported by so many people. A couple of people at our gym had done their ACLs before, so I was getting advice from them, and luckily I used the surgeon that Corey, Wood and Sophie had used, so I felt really positive about that. I feel like I was more upset like later down the track. Like, after, I was really focused on getting my surgery, doing the rehab. And then when it was kind of like close to my rehab being halfway maybe, and not seeing people from cheer, like, it's just a real big change to your life. Like, I was going to the gym all the time and seeing everyone with training. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. And then I even started coming in and watching, but like, it was just so, I'd watch everyone talk and stunt and have fun. And I'd just be like sitting out the front being like, oh, I want to join. But, no, I think coming back from injury, making sure you stick to your rehab. I feel like I was good with my rehab, but then also I had a lot of problems with my hamstrings. So then that, I don't know, I didn't come back as quickly as I'd like. But yeah, I don't know what else to, Jordan, have you ever been injured? I don't know.
I've like torn muscles and stuff, but never more than like a couple of weeks out kind of thing.
No.
I have so many opinions on that safety question though.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a huge cultural thing with like gyms and people training. And it's one of the things like, so, I mean, I'm not sure I should be criticizing big famous American coaches, but it's one of the things I hated watching that Navarro cheer documentary, right? It's like, you're telling kids to train on injuries that we're not saving the world here. Look after your body, and it's not good for this. It's not good for the squad. It's not good for the individual. This culture of like pushing through, or the routine and the squad is the most important. No, your spine is the most important. I think as an industry, as a group of people, we need to do a lot better in terms of just like taking safety and injury management more seriously. And I think that's just something that comes as the like sport matures, and people kind of grow up, I suppose. But it's also, I think there's a big like cultural thing about how people interact in a gym. Like if we're partner stunning and stunt is coming down and someone puts a hand on it, they feel like they have to apologize. Or like, oh, I'm sorry for spot. It's like that. You're keeping Shelley safe. Why are you apologizing?
It's not about the base's ego. It's
or
this
idea that we don't need a spot for that. It's like, well,
it just sparked my mind about that. Yeah.
Like I just there's already like anyway like I think there's bases talk too much. Bases have too many opinions. Bases try to make things about them too often, and it's just like, if we're talking about whether you have a spot, if we're talking about whether we're trying a new skill, if we're talking about if someone's helping the stunt and you didn't want them to touch it, but shut up. I don't care what you think as a base, frankly. I care what your flyer thinks. They're the one taking the risk.
Yeah. And I think, I know the Americans, like, they're so talented and they do a lot of videos where they don't have a spotter. And I worry that like people here will be like, that's fine, we can do a skill without a spotter. And it's one thing that I don't like about myself, but then again, I do. Since I did my knee, like, I will not do skills without a spotter. Like, we will do our warm-up, like up and down skills, but if it requires me flipping or twisting where I can come off axis and like boot Jordan in the chest and kick him back, I want a spot. And like, I started, we did rewinds without a spot for a little while, and that was before my knee, but after my knee, I just got really strict. But then even so, I think even if someone doesn't have an injury, if they're doing those types of skills, I I just feel like for everyone's safety, like I did my knee, it was bad luck. Like you could have bad luck.
It's
Yeah.
it's exactly that, right? Like it's not a judgment on a person. It's not like, oh, I don't trust you. It's like we can both be very good at what we're doing and doing our best, and 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 will screw up in a bad way because someone, whatever happened, I slipped, someone wasn't paying attention, someone tumbled into me. It might not be us. I plan on doing more than 10,000 rewinds in my life.
Yeah.
I don't accept that level of risk.
Yeah.
Right. So get a spotter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen Athlete A?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they talk about that Russian gymnast, that young one who injured her foot in the vault, and then and she was looking at her coach pleading, and he was just like, "Do it again." And I wonder if some of cheerleading has taken note from gymnastics in that way, that they just push, and it's been like really short-term thinking, because then people often push their bodies way too quickly in a short amount of space, and then they only end up doing the sport for a couple of years and their bodies are absolutely broken, rather than looking at like the long-term mental and physical health of athletes and how they're going to get the best out of the sport.
Absolutely. And there's a reckoning in gymnastics around that as well,
Yeah. Here
and in the US and elsewhere. I mean, at the end of the day, like, unless you're having fun, why are you here?
Yeah.
Why is anyone doing this unless it's fun?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So I did want to ask, now both of you have been trainers at APAC, which is the Australian Partner Acrobatic Convention, which is very much more acro based. And I feel like there's been a kind of a bit of a butting heads between cheerleading and acro for so long. But like, as we all know, there's lots of similarities and lots that we can learn from it. So I guess, what do you think are the benefits of talking to acro people and training with acro people, and what can we learn from them? And also, what can they learn from us?
Do you want to, I don't know.
Go for it, Jordan.
I love APAC. I love that place. I love, it's such a great community of people. It's so well run. Chris Carlos is awesome. Like everyone who coaches there and trains there is lovely. When we started, and I won't speak for you, when I started, there wasn't much of a distinction. It wasn't like there was acro people and cheerleading people. It was just, everyone's in the gym doing weird acrobatic type skills. And like, cheerleading was young enough that it didn't really have an identity that could be in distinction from acrobatics. So I think that they're so similar, and there's so much to learn from other people doing similar things. And there's a lot of a lot of kind of technique and knowledge, and people who've been doing this stuff all their life, who, maybe they don't do that specific skill, but they've been thinking about very similar skills for like 20 years. Why would you not take advantage of that? It's so valuable, and it's creative, right? Like, you can, I don't know, let's push for new, like, we haven't invented all of the cheerleading skills, right? Like, there are other things that people can do, and maybe it's a combination of something that's a traditionally acro type skill, but maybe we can do it differently, incorporate it, do something interesting. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Like, we at APAC, I loved introducing cheer to acro people. And they'd be like, it'd blow their minds if they could do something that they'd be like, oh, that's a lot easier than I expected, or harder, or that. Yeah. But then we'd do an acro class, and like, I'd be struggling with trying to do a skill that we usually do in a cheer way, but we're learning an acro way. But I feel like it really helps to then, when we go back to the cheer way, I'm thinking about like little things that I was doing the acro way, which made the way we do it a little bit easier. But yeah, Jordan said creativity and things like that. Like, I did acro. I competed acro before cheer. So I've loved adding acro things in. And we competed cannonball for quite a while. That I believe that came from acro before cheer. So yeah, which is where you jump into a ball, swing through the legs, and then go up to handstand. And like, I thought that was the coolest thing ever, because like no one else was competing that to handstand. And I was like, that's our little acro trick.
Yeah. And what do you think? Do you reckon you could put a handle on what acro people enjoy the most about cheer and what they've like from what you've taught them? Can you think of?
Yeah, I think there's some of it's just like different, like a new way, different ways of thinking about things or different skills. So like just like standing in hands or like wearing shoes are just kind of new and confronting, and I think people find quite interesting, especially in the APAC kind of context, because people are there to learn and try something new. The other thing, and then just like stylistically, for me, two like things that make cheerleading, stunting, particularly what it is like it's all about like short burst, explosive stuff. Power, like it's quick throw, toss, toss hands. Freaks at like acro people, it blows their minds that you can toss hands. Is such a like foundational skill in cheerleading, and they just don't understand how it works. So it's that and the stylistic element of like cheerleading where, out and proud and cocky and presenting and just introducing people to like a style of acrobatics that is built around those two things, I think, kind of blows their mind. Or gives them a lot to walk away and think about anyway, and how they're going to apply it in their own thing. Sorry, sure.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't know. I went backwards a bit, but I was thinking about how like with hand and hands as well. I feel like with cheer, it was just like do a handstand on on the hands, whereas acro was very like push here, push there, do this, like so specific on little details, which I think has helped us with hand and hands as well.
Absolutely. I remember doing like half an hour on just the connection.
Yeah, just
palm.
yeah. Which is the other thing as well. Acro, you spend like forever doing like the basics, whereas cheer is like, okay, now you can do this, you're going to do this. Like cheer's very like quick. You move up skills quickly.
I
think there's a role for both those, I think, but like I it's something that we can really learn from. It's much more mature in the skills, like the coaching and the technique is much more mature. In Australia, still, like, most of the people who cheerlead or most of the people who coach learnt this stuff looking at people on YouTube. You didn't have, there's not like a, you go and do gymnastics and there's like an 80-year-old Russian dude who's been coaching it his entire life. And he was taught by an 80-year-old Russian dude who was coaching it his entire life. We just don't have that. But acro does more.
Yeah, absolutely. So for any young up and coming stunters, cheerleaders, what would be your, like, I don't know, like your advice, or even if you want to take it into like, if there's anything that you would have done differently over the years, like if you entered cheerleading now, knowing what you know, what would your advice be?
Should I go?
Go for it.
My advice would be to like train as much as you can. You're not going to get better if you don't put in the work, but also like if you're struggling with a skill, like just to move on. Like the amount of times we've come across, well, we've done it ourselves, but we've come across other people stunting and they just keep trying the same skill over and over again. Like, I'm not saying don't do, I'm saying just give it a break, move on to another skill, maybe come back or do it like the next training session. I used to get so, like, it was my goal to catch that or to do whatever I wanted to do right. And I get so like caught up on it that like we'd start going backwards, but like keep trying it. So I feel like knowing when to take a break and like move on, try a different skill, and then coming back to it. And then one other thing would be just what I said earlier is like doing the basics at the start. So our warm up, like when we do toss top, then we do hands, cupie, hands, lib, warm up TikToks, and then we do some full ups. Like we do them every single time. And it would just set us up for a good training. So yeah, I feel like those three things. Do you have anything else to it?
Massively, I like 100% agree on that. Do not underestimate basics. Like, basics are critical. If you can't hold a stable prep, how are you going to catch something in prep? If you can't hold a stable QP, how are you going to rewind to it? Like, it's being, and so that kind of like warm up and focus on being real strong on the foundations makes everything so much easier. You end up bashing your head against the wall a lot less when you're learning new skills, when the basics are there. The other thing I'd add is like people, like find people to train with that you enjoy training with and who make you feel good about going to training and feel good about yourself and the training that you're doing. Find people, you know, and that's in like partners, but it's also in you know, the people that you're training with, you know, find people and work on the way you communicate with your partner and with the people you're training with. You know, like you need to be able to talk about, what did that feel like? How did that go? How do I feel about training? Hey, you know, can we maybe try to focus on this next time we're training? You need to be able to have these conversations. It's like fundamentally between partners, it's very much, you know, a relationship. You need to be able to manage each other and talk about stuff and communicate about the skills. But then also with like the people who you're around with, you know, if they can be coaching or not coaching or, you know, giving you feedback. Yeah, there's just, if you get the people right, it's a lot more fun, and you know, you progress a lot better. I think that's pretty critical.
That's super interesting. You've touched on something that I've always been quite passionate about, in that, you know, I've always found that I get quite defensive when bases blame me when something goes wrong. Like if a stunt comes down and they're like, you did this wrong. And then you're like, no, well, you did this wrong. And I've always worked really well with the people who have been like, oh, sorry, did I do something? And then I'd be like, oh, no, it's totally my fault. And it creates this completely different dynamic where you're taking responsibility and there's like a certain amount of respect for the person that you're working with. And I think that creates trust and it creates this really nice relationship. Whereas when people blame me, I know definitely I get defensive and I'm like, well, it wasn't my fault. And, you know, and it's possibly got to do with my insecurities as a flyer as well. But yeah, I do think that the dynamic that you create makes such a difference to how successful your training is going to be.
Absolutely right. And that's something that like people you are training with, in order to get the best out of you, need to know about you.
Yeah.
You know, like in order to train successfully with you, a person needs to know that. And maybe, you know, there's a part for you to prepare people for that, right? Like, hey, FYI, training with me, this is what I respond to this, you know, like I think like a lot of those conversations are often quite hard. But I think the more people are thinking about it, the better you're going to do. And finding people that work best with the way that you work. Shelley?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that's why we've worked together so well, because we will always come down from a stunt and I'll be like, sorry, I did this. And Jordan will be like, no, it was me. Like we'll be like fighting about who did it, who made the stunt go wrong. But then I've seen other stunt couples come down and like yell at each other because they're telling each other who did what wrong. So I feel like, that has been a positive with stunting together.
And focusing on what each of us can do to make it work, you know, like, you know, next time, well, okay, you did something weird maybe, but I can actually compensate for that next time. So if I know it's going to happen, then, you know, it's not just about, oh, you need to be better, stay tight.
And I know I've been on bases and come down and they've just been like, you did this and did that, and I'm like, oh, okay, like but then you don't, I feel like then it doesn't get better, like because they haven't thought about what they could maybe fix or
and then I think you also like focus on what you've done wrong, isn't it? You're like, oh god, I've got it. And then the more you focus on what you've done wrong, you don't focus on what you're meant to do, so you keep doing the wrong thing.
And you only ever have half the picture, right? Like I don't know what it feels like up top. Like what makes me think I know exactly what's wrong? Like sometimes I do, but sometimes I felt something and Shelley will be like, oh, I did this, and we're like, ooh, right, I had no idea, right? My
favorite thing is when I hear like I don't know, say if it's a stunt group or whatever, yelling up to a flyer to straighten their leg. And I'm like, flyers don't bend their legs for fun.
Just not trying to
there
bend
is a
your leg,
reason underneath that is making them do that.
Yeah.
That is, So
I totally know where you're at, but I often wonder if it's like, unless you're a flyer and unless you've tried to stand on something that's really awful, then you just don't understand what that feeling is like, and that feeling of wanting to be like push the air so that you can like get on top of get more on top of the stunt.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something?
Me?
Yeah. No. Okay. Cool. We're pretty much done. I guess the one last question is: you both coached, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any perspective that you have from being an athlete for so long and then coaching athletes? Do you think that it changes your perspective of cheerleading? Do you think that it gives you like a really great understanding? Like, what do you think that you get out of coaching that maybe someone who hasn't coached has?
You go, Shelley. You've coached a lot more than I have.
I definitely think like it really helped like my relationships with my athletes, and like having like understanding of like their struggles and their mental blocks and things like that. Like I feel like that's what I was good at with coaching. I wouldn't really say I was the greatest coach at choreography or making routines. Like I was not good at that, but like relating to my athletes, like because we've all been through it, and just like teaching skills. Like I'm not a tumbler, but I've done cheer for so many years that I feel like I could really help with stunting as well, all of it, but like really help teach the skills because we've actually done them. Because I know, especially flying, that's like my main thing. Knowing what it feels like to be able to actually tell flyers how it's going to feel, what they should feel, and understand what they're feeling if it's feeling wrong. And then that even helped me with bases as well, because if a flyer was telling me they're feeling this, then I'd be like, oh, okay, well then the bases, let me look at the base, they're doing this. But Jordan.
Coaching, I think so. I've done a little bit of coaching. I've never like been properly in charge of a squad, and I think that's good for everybody. Like I think I should not be. I've really enjoyed being like that kind of secondary type coach, which is super fun. But coaching is like, it's really hard. Not everybody can do it, and it's largely just about people, right? Like managing people and what to do to get. And either if you watch Ted Lasso.
No, I have heard about it though.
Please watch it. It's amazing. It is one of the best shows I've ever watched, especially the first season. But like, dude coaches a squad. He knows nothing about English, about soccer, but he's coaching a soccer squad, and his job is to get the best out of people, and other people know about the game and the technique and the whatever. But like, I think a lot of people kind of think that, I don't know, it's easy to take on a coaching role, and I've done lots of cheerleading and therefore I can coach. It's like, well, they're very different skill sets. Again, I love coaching like in the like partner stunt context. I love coaching like a pair and talking to them, and because that's what I've done the most, and that's the stuff that I find most interesting, breaking down technique and stuff. And you constantly learn about like, what is the way that I can express this skill in a way that you're going to respond to? How are you thinking about this? How should you think about it? Maybe I should change the way I do this skill because of something you just told me. It's a very two-way. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, there's so many great coaches out there that like, it blows my mind, their creative skills and how they come up with things. Like I was never a head coach. I was always secondary as well, because I just do not have the creativity that some people have. Like I was definitely there for my skill, teaching my skills, and like I just love kids as well. So I feel like that's more why I coach. But it blows my mind. There's so many great coaches out there that just make routines out of nothing.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, we're at the end of the hour. Just quickly, what's your favorite stunt?
I don't know.
good question. Favorite stunt. So I can I tell a like tiny story?
Yeah, go for it.
I had ever since I started cheerleading, I've always had a skill that I've seen other people doing that I've thought that I will never be able to do. That started, the first one of those was extended lib. Second one of them was QP. Third one was full up QP. Fourth one was rewind QP. All of these skills, like at a time, I thought I would never be able to do. When I got it, it was like best day of my life. And I was like, look at this amazing thing that I can do. And so at each point in those times, I'd say each of those has been my favorite skill. Current one is hand ski snap down. I really want to kind of get that, never have. Anyway, that's, I think, but the short answer to your question is rewind QP. Just feels so baller. Yeah. It's just like that, like there is nothing just as a base, just being like, yeah. So feels so good.
Awesome.
I feel like I'm the same as Jordan. Like I was always like wanting to get a skill, and then when I'd get it, I'd be like, okay, on to the next one. But definitely when like side semis are a big one, because we did them for so long, like could never get it to the top. And then finally getting it to the top was like a good feeling. And then rewind fulls, when we got our first rewind full, I was just like, what on earth? Because we'd never seen anyone do it like in Australia in front of us. So like we were pretty much learning off videos or tips from like other people that have been over to America or that. So when we caught that was like a really exciting moment. And then, but I will, to end, my favorite skill is cannonball to handstand, just because of the fun of it. Like as a flyer, you jump and you go into a ball, and then you like swung through the legs, and then you're up in handstand. Like it still blows my mind. Like it doesn't make sense. Whereas like a side semi, I can like work through it. And a rewind full I can understand, but like the cannonball, I just don't get how Jordan holds me with like his two little fingers and keeps my feet together and then throws me up to it. Like it doesn't make sense. So I like that skill.
Yeah, for sure. But it probably feels a little bit like you're flying.
Yeah, it's so weird. And like when I stop photos as well, it's just a weird thing. Like I'm in a little ball and you're like swinging me through.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's been an awesome chat. It's lovely picking your brains and hearing your opinions about everything. So thanks for taking the time.
Well,
thank you for having
us.
It's been good to talk about cheer.
I know.
So deprived of
since
it.
we can't do it.
I'm missing it so much. I know. Hopefully we'll be back in the gym soon enough.
I know. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see you there soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
No. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.